Welcome, Cindy Scott. So gorgeous to have you
Thank
here
you.
and to be able to speak with me live. We're going across 3 channels today: Facebook, LinkedIn, and we'll be sitting on our YouTube channel. So for anyone who's tuning in to this right now as we're live, if you have to go or if you're disrupted, you can find this sitting on the Businesswomen Australia YouTube channel. So Cindy Scott, wow, my beautiful Cindy Scott. We last time we caught up was when I was over, and we had a Businesswomen Australia event on the Sunshine Coast. So much has happened since then. Our world has turned upside down, and yours in particular. Just give us a quick chat about what's been happening for you in your world, and why I might be referring to you as a resilience renegade.
Sure. Well, early last year, so when we were looking at January 2020, I was like, 2020 is going to be my year. I thought, wow, this is going to be fantastic. I had my business plan in place. I had envisioned what I wanted my year to look like. I was 6 weeks out from getting married. And then I went in for my routine mammogram and ultrasound just to tick that thing off the list, and I thought, right, I'll get that out of the way so that I can really focus on wedding preparations and be able to relax, because we had a number of international people coming for our wedding as well as interstate guests. And as the sonographer was scanning over my breast, he said, "Oh, you have a lump." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You have a lump." And I'm like desperately trying to feel it. And I couldn't feel it. And I was like, no way, this can't be happening to me. I don't believe it. And we went off and got the testing. And sure enough, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, in the lead up to getting married, the same time, COVID was taking off in the world, and, was pretty much front of mind for the entire globe. So everyone was encouraged to be returning home, not to be traveling, to go into self-isolation, to try and get this scary new virus that was coming on the scene under control, and to keep safe. So, to cut a long story short, we ended up canceling our wedding celebrations. We did end up eloping, which was beautiful, and we had 2 witnesses. Another BWA member actually was one of our witnesses for our wedding. Beautiful Kathy McKenzie. And so canceled our wedding. I went straight into surgery, had a lumpectomy, and then started chemotherapy shortly thereafter. So what I thought was going to be the most amazing year of my life just went upside down in a matter of weeks. So it was pretty confronting, pretty challenging. And I think cancer diagnosis is enough, but then to be having COVID sort of taking off at the same time with the uncertainty and change around that as well, it felt like a real double whammy for me. Going through treatment, I had to do that on my own as well. I wasn't allowed to take a support person with me to appointments. So my now husband was, beautiful in getting me to appointments, but wasn't actually allowed to go in. So that made it even more challenging when you're going through something that's so horrific, so life-threatening, and you're sort of that deer in headlights, and you're not really comprehending, you're not really hearing that information from a doctor. And then trying to make life, impacting decisions when you're in a state of trauma and shock and fear. It's very, very difficult to navigate through. So last year was quite a challenging year, to say the least.
Well, that certainly puts it into perspective for those of us that we're just juggling the interruptions really, and the pivoting that we had to do. Tell me a little bit more about how that might have impacted on you and on Chris, obviously, as your primary support person right there with you. I mean, there must be so many people right now everywhere around the world that are in this situation where they're being diagnosed with something that's really challenging from a health perspective. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think this was my actual second diagnosis with breast cancer. So I have had my, test run with it back in 2016. So this was 4 years later. And I guess for me, when I reflected, so just on diagnosis for the second time, I was reflecting on the first time. And I would say the first time I did the epic fail. Like I was like, I haven't got time for this. I was almost like refusing to believe that I had it. I kept working. I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't actually take time out for treatment. In fact, I refused radiation and drug therapy. I was like, no, I've got this. I'm fine. I'm going to just tough it out, soldier on, get back into life. Back then I was a single mom, had to put food on the table for my son and I. So it was a really challenging time to be diagnosed the first time. So this time was even more challenging because it was a more aggressive cancer and it required chemotherapy, which is massive. Anyone going through that would know it is a really challenging time. But I guess the big difference for me was I had this beautiful man, this beautiful support in my life who said, Cindy, look, you cannot approach it the same this time around. You've got me in your life. You've got a lot of loved ones who actually want to support you. And so for me, and this was, and I'm sure there's a lot of women listening today that can relate. It's like, I'm an independent, go-getting, get shit done kind of chick. I don't have time to take time out for my health. I don't have time for treatment. I don't have time to actually put myself first. And that was probably the thing that was a massive shift for me, is to actually shine the light on myself and go, okay, I actually need some time to get treatment, to actually give myself time to heal. And so I can remember I was consulting actually with another BWA member, Vita Carlino. She's a dear friend of mine. I rang her and I said, Vade, I need some help. I need some advice. And she's one of those wise sage women that I consult when I'm in those real dark moments of like, I need advice from someone who is so, I guess, seeing the bigger picture. And she said, clear as day, she said, what advice would you give to another woman going through this? And I went, I would be advising them to like take time out. If you can shut your business down or stop work to actually take time for treatment and healing, I would encourage any woman to do that. And she goes, so what are you going to do about it? And I went, ouch. Like, it's like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to, actually take time for me and make myself a priority. I haven't got time. So for me, I was really battling with my own self, my own beliefs, my own self-worth, and, having to accept that I actually needed support, that it was something that I couldn't do myself. And it's probably the first time in my life where I thought, I'm now relying on a medical team of people that I don't really know to actually fix me or help heal me, to remove cells from my body, to give me infusions of chemo to address any floating sort of cancer cells moving around my body. So it was a real reckoning in terms of, I wrote this beautiful email. I felt it was beautiful because of the feedback that I've since had, but it was a really heartfelt, I'm sorry, everyone, but I'm actually putting myself first. I need to take time for treatment. I'm going to be closing my business indefinitely. I'm not sure how long this journey will take. And hitting that send button was one of the most challenging things I've done. But the outpouring of support that I got immediately, like within minutes, I had all these emails coming back from clients, from colleagues, from partners, just so much support. So, I think that vulnerability piece, good old Brené Brown and her work around vulnerability, for me, opening my heart to say to the people in my support network, I'm struggling, I'm down for the count, I need help. And to let people see me go through that. Like my hair all fell out, in a couple of weeks. I was feeling very much like the victim, cancer patient, looking back in the mirror going, I'm so hideously ugly. I hate being in this situation. I hate being dependent on anyone. But I had to surrender to that, and I had to allow support from others. And that made such a massive difference. So that would be one bit of advice I'd give to anyone going through, whether it's cancer or any other adversity. Reach out to your loved ones. There's always going to be someone that would offer support. And it may be a work colleague. It might be somebody that's sort of, in the periphery of your life, not necessarily someone who's, blood relation or someone who you even deem a close friend right now. It could be somebody that's just one step removed from your life. I know for me, one woman that was that person for me was a beautiful soul named Danny. And she was someone who's, I would call her a friend, but She wasn't in my inner sanctum of friends. And all of a sudden she showed up for me like, she was that person. And I just never saw that. You never know where that love and that support's going to come from. So yeah, she was a beautiful soul to hold space for me through such a horrendous time.
Certainly for people that are in your world who love you and know you, and this, when we come across anyone that is going through a tough time like this, we just don't know what to do and how to help. And particularly in these times when we're separated and isolated through border restrictions and we can't travel, or this. So what are the things that people can do to help and support those that have been diagnosed with cancer? I mean, you've done something quite incredible as a result of this journey. You've really kind of got this amazing focus and energy that's bizarre.
It's changed my life, but and not that I'd wish it on anyone, but I'm actually really grateful for the whole thing, for all the crap. Because what I've found through cancer is I've found my life purpose, and I've found a way that I really want to support and help other people. So for me, I think one of the really unique things that I chose to do going through treatment last year, and I epic fail on the first time round, so I did, the classic wrong things, but last year, second time diagnosis, what I chose to do is surrender and meet the cancer that had come to visit me, and to sit with that and explore, what is it that you've got to communicate to me? Like, if we connect in with our own body wisdom, we are so wise beyond any knowing. And for me, when I went in search of books or support materials to help me through, there was a lot of this sort of F cancer, conquer cancer, I'm going to crush cancer. And I thought, we never solve wars with fighting. We need to meet it peacefully. We need to have a level of acceptance around, why has this come to visit me? And so I really struggled to find any resources that were more of a loving sort of self-loving kindness way of approaching it. So as I was going through treatment last year, I began to journal because I had so many emotions stirring up through me, like every emotion you can possibly name. It was like this cocktail of emotions swirling around. And, I sought therapy. I mean, therapy was something that certainly did help me get through some really dark times, because I certainly went into some pretty dark places. Until one day a girlfriend said, look, Cindy, why don't you put some of your journal entries into a book? Why don't you write a book to help support other women going through cancer treatment? And my immediate reaction was, no, the world doesn't need any more, books on that. But when I started to think, well, hang on a sec, I've got 10 plus years of executive coaching. Why don't I bring some coaching tools into that book? And so when that idea was planted, all of a sudden this book just was birthed through me. So I'm super proud to show you the healing journal. Oh, you've got your own copy. Love it. So this healing journal contains a little bit of my personal story, personal journey. And that is really not so much about me grandstanding about my experience, but it's to validate the reader's experience of what they might be going through. And like, every person's journey is so unique and different. But this is my journey, warts and all, what I went through, what was stirred up for me. As well, I've also included a lot of what I call self-coaching or self-inquiry questions. And there's a lot of mindfulness practices in there as well. So for me, I wanted to meet cancer more peacefully, and I wanted to get curious about why had it come to visit me. So a lot of this book is around enabling and supporting the reader to have a journey where they can meet it more lovingly and more peacefully move through their treatment process.
I love this journal, this book. It's full of so many things, and you've got it in kind of seasons, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I ended up doing was, you're probably all familiar with the grief curve, where we sort of have life as usual, and then, we're met with some sort of shock or adversity. We move into a darker place, and then we come out into spring, into summer. So I happened to start the book in the season of autumn, because autumn's kind of like that time in your life when you're harvesting like those things that you've sown. And it's like you're kind of celebrating. We just had our Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago here. I'm a Canadian by birth, so we actually celebrated Thanksgiving, had a beautiful big turkey and pumpkin pie and, you know, all the trimmings. But it was very much, and I start the book in that phase of Thanksgiving, and then all of a sudden met with this shock of a diagnosis, moving into winter, which was the depths of darkness, and being very much in the thick of chemotherapy for me, feeling very ugly, you know, lost my identity, lost my work, lost my health, lost my fitness, my marriage, you know, the wedding celebrations got canceled. So there was a lot of grieving. There was a lot of loss. And then we come out the other side. It's like, ooh, there's hope. Ooh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Ooh, there's something exciting to move toward. And that's sort of that, you know, picking yourself back up, reinventing who you are, looking at who you are now on the other side of such a tough time. So spring and then out into summer. So what I've done is the book's broken up into 12 chapters, and there's 3 seasons in each chapter. So it follows that grief curve or that change curve. And we've got the seasons to support you going through each of those phases.
It's just incredible. It's extraordinary, Cindy. So congratulations on the book. And if that's not enough, you've also got launching an online course next week, right?
Yeah, so on Monday, the 18th of October, we're actually opening the doors to this brand new, what I'm calling the Cancer Companion course. So I'm not there to say, hey, I'm the expert on going through cancer, but I'm here as a companion and support for women going through cancer treatment, because it is a tough time. And for many, it's probably the toughest time that you'll go through in your life. And I know we've got the added layer of complexity right now with people being in, you know, in a COVID environment where they may be locked down, may not be able to take support people to their appointments. They may not be able to have people come to visit them in their homes, depending on what, you know, what state they're living in and what situation they're in. So I'm feeling very much that pain of people going through this and feeling like they need to do it alone. So the Cancer Companion course is really my hand extended to yours to actually help guide and support you through a pretty crappy time. So the online course starts on Monday. It very much mirrors the book. So the Healing Journal is actually the workbook for the course. So it's a great companion for the program to help dive into it deeper and to move through your treatment process more peacefully and lovingly.
I've just popped into Facebook and LinkedIn, I think the link, but I will make sure that after this that we'll have those links added anyway. Some of them aren't going up, but certainly you'll be able to find Cindy Scott and whatever's going on in Cindy's life with the Healing Journal, with courses that are going to be coming on board as Cindy's the ever effervescent entrepreneur and constantly identifying gaps in the world that she sort of is able to close and support and help all through the journey that I've known Cindy for quite a few years now. She's forever the person who sees where there's a need and actually identifies how she can be the change in the world and the support in the world to heal the world. And it's just quite phenomenal, Cindy, that you've been able to go through this journey, and thank you so much for sharing it with us so honestly. You are just a beautiful soul. I'm missing you so much. Really missing you. It's tough being on both opposite sides of this massive, and it seems bigger than ever with these border closures. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Hopefully.
Yeah. We'll all be back together again before we know it. But the fact is, we can still stay connected. Thanks, Cindy. Any final words of encouragement for anybody who might have recently been diagnosed? I mean, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Week this week, isn't it? So
this whole month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, how long have you got? I've got plenty to say on that topic. But no, what I would say, if I could keep it in a nice, simple sort of tidbit of advice, would be, if you've been diagnosed, or even if you find yourself in treatment, ask more questions. be more informed, find different teachers. There are other ways. There's complementary therapies to help support you going through. There's plenty of different doctors to even get a second and a third opinion, which I chose to do as well, because I think that chemistry is so important that you have with your doctor and the advice that you're receiving. You can go to 3 different doctors, 10 different doctors, and get different advice and different recommendations on your path ahead. So be informed so that you get in the driver's seat of your own treatment program and feel like you have some sense of control over the days and weeks and months ahead. That would be my best advice.
That's excellent advice for anyone diagnosed with any medical issue, really,
Absolutely.
isn't it? Totally. Yeah. Okay, Cindy Scott, thank you so much for taking
Thank
time
you.
out for a live chat. Aren't we brave going out live? There's nothing pre-recorded here. And for anyone who wants to find Cindy, you'll see Cindy on www.evolvingwomen.co. Also, Cindy's on LinkedIn and, of course, in the BWA directory on the Business Women Australia website. If you want to get involved with Business Women Australia, we would love to see you. All our online events are free. In fact, Michelle Pascoe is hosting Friday Inspired Connections. So jump onto those. We have loads coming up, and we'd all love to see you. So stay connected, stay engaged, and support each other.
Absolutely. And I am such a raving fan of BWA. I've met so many beautiful souls through this community, and they've been such a huge support for me going through my cancer journey. So I can't recommend a BWA membership enough. So absolutely join the group of amazing women it is.
Thanks, Cindy. We'll chat soon.
Thank you.